if you're new around here, there's something you should probably know about me. I have an addiction to sidetrack projects. There's at least one of these projects every other month. Actually more than that probably. In other words, it is time for another installment of Fiction to Fashion, which by the way is the official name for this series of costumes I plan to make, where I take a fictional character and create a red carpet, high fashion style dress or outfit based on their style. And this character is Cinderella. Who knew? I'm kind of obsessed with Cinderella. Anyway, there is a new Cinderella movie out, which means it's the perfect time to make Ella's red carpet look. On the note of the new Cinderella movie, I have not seen it yet, but I can tell you that the inspiration for this actual dress design is coming from Disney's animated and live-action versions of Cinderella, not specifically this new movie. From the very beginning of this Fiction to Fashion series, I knew I had to do Cinderella, and I knew I wanted to use the scraps and leftover Umissima type fabric for this design. So yes, that magical floaty fabric that is just amazing. I'm going to use that. I ended up having about 2.5 full yards of each color left over in this fabric, plus a bunch of scraps from cutting out all those skirt panels. As for the design of this dress, I made a terrible attempt of drawing it out, and it just didn't work that well. Honestly, I didn't exactly know what I want it to look like. One of the main reasons being that the fact that I only have 2.5 yards of each color, and what I really wanted to design to look like and such needed a lot more fabric. So I am just going to wing it and see what happens. So first up, I needed to find some fabric in my closet. That's a rule I kind of have for these Fiction to Fashion projects or sidetrack projects in general, is to use up some of my fabric stash and not technically buy anything for the project. It sometimes works. So I pulled out this cotton twill fabric. It's a heavier fabric, and I wanted that because I want to create a sturdier base for this dress, just to give a nice structure. Next fabric is this really fine silk gauze, but it's a more fine gauze than regular silk gauze, and it's actually for wool felting. So as you can see, it's just really... And after working with this fabric, I would say it's probably best used for that and not a full dress. It did work, but it pulls like crazy and it's just so delicate. Like even rough skin pulls the fine fibers, so anyway. The reason I like this gauze over regular gauze is because it's really got a nice shimmer to it, and also it's more transparent. Just got a really nice shine. For the base of the dress, I'm going to layer both of these fabrics together. The twill will give great structure, but since it's not really like a dressy fabric, the silk gauze on top will just add a nice shimmer to the whole look. Plus, I've got the twill fabric in a cream, and then with the silk on top, it just creates a really nice warm color. If it was white underneath the silk, it would sort of wash out the shimmer of the silk, plus it would just be a bit too stark white. To create the pattern for this base part of the dress, I am going to use a method with my basic block and drawing on the desired lines. I of course shared this entire process of pattern making on a recent video, so be sure to check that out. Once the pattern was designed and mock-ups made and adjusted, it's time to cut out the fabric. The silk gauze is very sticky, an odd way to describe fabric, but if you felt it, you'd kind of know what I mean. I almost got a cobwebby feel when working with it, but this aspect of the fabric made it very easy to layer the two fabrics together. The silk just kind of sticks to the cotton, and then I could easily base the layers together, which I did by machine. The seams are then pressed and cat stitched down. Now we get to a section of the design that's sort of inspired by the animated Cinderella. These circle pieces will be over the hips, which will resemble the side swoops of the animated dress. Here's what I've got so far, and now the hip sections need to be attached to the bodice. For the skirt part of this base dress, I was originally planning on a more structured mermaid shape coming out at the bottom, but I didn't have enough of the twill fabric, so I improvised and decided on making it a nice flowy dress with a layer of chiffon and the silk gauze. Still the kind of mermaid shape, but not quite. For the seams of the skirt, I'm going to use my gemming technique, which is basically just a no-sew seam with gem glue being the thing that holds it all together. I use this type of seam on the Umissima layers for Cinderella's ball gown because that's what I think the original dress did. But anyway, I really enjoyed the process and the look that it all created, so I thought it would be nice to give it a try on the silk gauze seams. For the chiffon seams, I first serged them, and then I decided to line this seam with gems because why not? This two-layered skirt is then attached to the bodice/hip piece.
Then there's some more cat stitching to secure all those seams down to make sure everything is laying smoothly. Then boning channels are placed. For the boning on this bodice, I decided to go with synthetic whalebone because it gives really great structure, but it isn't as rigid as steel boning. Next up is doing the front closure, which I did with hooks and thread bars. When trying this base dress on, I realized something needed to be done with the two layers of the skirt. Since the silk is so sticky and the chiffon has some staticness to it, it's not a great combination, and it took a lot of time to get both layers laying smoothly, and then with one twirl it would all get wonky again. So to fix this, I decided to use some gems. Got a problem? Use gems. After getting the layers all smoothly laying together, I trimmed the hem and then placed gems along the bottom edge. I had to use these larger gems because I wanted to use the smaller ones for the bodice, and I didn't want to buy more than I already have. So anyway, this large size was the next size that I had. But hey, it worked and it fixed the problem and it's pretty. With the base dress complete, it's finally time to get to the fun stuff. Most of the scraps are triangle-shaped pieces. Because of cutting out those skirt panels, the extra is like triangle-shaped. So for the bodice draping, I am planning on using this arrangement of small triangle pieces. I have some longer ones mixed in, plus some of the lilac color. The longer pieces will sort of create a Bertha look to this bodice draping. And now we get to add in some more gems. Instead of sewing all the draping in place, gems will be the thing holding it all together. For the draping, it was a matter of arranging the two edges of the fabric pieces and then placing gems along that line to hold both edges in place. It's during these times of mindlessly placing gems when an audiobook sure comes in handy. So thanks to Audible for sponsoring this video. Audible is the leading platform for spoken word entertainment. With a membership, you'll gain access to their Plus catalog, which includes audiobooks exclusively on Audible. Plus, each month you'll get a credit towards any audiobook of your choosing. My personal choice this time is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and read by Rosamund Pike. I've always enjoyed watching the Pride and Prejudice movies, and I finally decided it was time to find out the full story as Austen wrote it. But honestly, I've never actually wanted to read it, like in physical form, but listening to it was so enjoyable. So if you're like me, give it a try and listen to the familiar story about Elizabeth Bennet and her sisters. Visit audible.com/BellaMay or text Bella May to 500-500 and start your free 30-day trial of Audible and begin your listening journey. The skirt will be made of the full yardage of fabric that I have, and I want it to be as full of skirt as possible. I cut the blue skirt out as a circle skirt, sort of, and then I cut a slit down the middle. In this section, I will insert a triangle piece of the lilac fabric, and then I'll also have a lilac piece at the center back. And of course, all the seams will be glued together with gems. Once the pieces of the skirt are all together, it's time to attach it to the bodice. Again, using gems. For the fabric sections that were shorter coming off the bodice, I decided I needed them longer in order to really make the top section Bertha work. So out comes some more triangle pieces and gems. Also, since the fabric will be twisted up and you'll see both sides of the fabric, I also added some gems to the wrong side of the gems on the seam so that both sides are gemmed up and pretty. One last step, all the loose ends will be sort of twisted up. I did it like how you would do a twist in your hair. And then a knot at the shoulder, and that completes this draped bodice look. I am really happy with how this one turned out. I think it's a perfect combo of the two Cinderellas, and I don't know about you, but I think it would look pretty nice on a red carpet or blue carpet. But what do you think? Would Cinderella wear this to a premiere? As always, a huge thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for their continued amazing support in this sewing journey. And if you'd like to learn more about that, the links will be you know where. And now go out there and learn, create, and inspire.